Okay, In Defense of Ska will begin in just a moment. But first, I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast. It means so much to us. And if you enjoy the podcast, tell your friends about it. The best way to do that is to, follow us on Instagram and Twitter and share our posts and let people know when they say, hey, is there a podcast I should be listening to? Say yes, In Defense of Ska. Go on to wherever you get podcasts from and subscribe to the podcast. Leave a 5-star review. Let people know that you support In Defense of Ska, that you defend ska. Thanks.
The Abruptors formed just under a decade ago in Buffalo, New York. Their music is rooted in traditional ska and two-tone grooves, meaning that at their formation, they didn't have a lot of peers. Nevertheless, they became the go-to Buffalo ska band, opening for nearly every band that came through town. And even Mike Park took notice and signed them to Asian Man Records. Their new album, Noticeably Cheerless, was released on Asian Man on February 24th. Though the first single, Waiting Forever, came out on February 7th, an apt title as the band had been waiting a long time for the record to get pressed.
I first met the Abruptors at the Asian Man Records 20th anniversary.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Mike put them as one of the openers on one of the Link 80 reunion shows.
Ah.
Yeah. It was them one show, and on the other show it was All People, Greg from Bad Operations Band. So that was my first time meeting Greg and my first time meeting the Abruptors.
Did you skank when the Abruptors played?
Honestly, probably not, but I do remember enjoying them more than I expected to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was, Link 80 reunion was kind of a weird, surreal moment for me, but I do remember enjoying their set, and I do feel like I hit it off with them.
Nice. And little did you know,
all these years later, I'd have a podcast with you, and we'd be talking to the Abruptors.
Well, first thing I want to talk about is you guys did a cover of Brian Fallon's Forget Me Not.
Yeah.
He retweeted it.
Yeah, he retweeted it, sent us a nice little message. It was awesome.
Tell me the inspiration behind that cover initially.
It's kind of just was listening to a lot of Gaslight Anthem, and had found out that he had been doing solo projects through a ska group, actually, which was kind of interesting. They were just passing around that song, Forget Me Not.
So in the ska group, everyone's just like, listen to this non-ska song.
So it's kind of weird. It's like a Hot Knives fan group, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Every once in a while, the guy who runs it, name is Derek, he will promote anything from like our band to other ska bands around the world to just random stuff that he finds that he really likes. And I think that song kind of reminded him of like a ska song, but obviously it was not. And it just kind of inspired me to sit down with a guitar and see if I could make it a little bit more like old school traditional ska feel. And we did. And we had a plan actually to start performing that song. We practiced it maybe once, and then the shutdown happened. Mm-hmm. And that whole thing just got scrapped. And, we're always looking for like interesting covers and stuff like that. We try to stay away from more stereotypical stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about some of your covers. I know you did ME330 Understand. You did that for the ME330 comp.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other ones you've done?
We did To Have Not by Billy Bragg.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about.
Yeah, we get that one a lot requested. People like that one a lot. Get a few people who tell us that it's been covered too many times. They don't understand why we did it. And then you look it up and you're like, there's two. You're like, okay, one's very, very poor. The other one's great. But, I think Lars Fredriksson was obviously the most famous for doing that. It's awesome. And I think Tim Timebomb and Friends did it. It was a little weird. So I don't think our adding a third one was too much. But, a lot of people love it when we play it. We had a guy last night, we're playing a show. And he was this is really weird. He was one of the producers for Less Than Jake for Hello Rockview. Really? He just happened to be in our area. He was touring with Modern English.
Okay.
And we were playing that show, and we played that song. He pulled up a stool, and just his eyes were glued to us as we played it. He's just screaming, "Yeah, all right!" And we got off the stage after we played, and he handed us his card, which was awesome. He's like, "Yeah, I'd love to work with you guys." So that song's been good to us.
And what's his name?
Steve Kravick, maybe? I can't pronounce his last name.
I still have this card in my pocket.
Oh, well, you pronounce it then.
Yes, Steve Kravick.
There we go.
All right. Shout out Steve Kravick. Do you have a Hot Knives song that you do?
Yeah, we got a couple of them, actually. We're going to be on a comp for that next year. We recorded Dave and Mary and WLN.
I feel like so Hot Knives are a really good band, but I feel like a lot of people that listen to this show maybe aren't aware of them.
Oh, absolutely.
You want to give people a little bit of just a little brief summary of who Hot Knives were and why they're so amazing?
Sure. I mean, for me, the Hot Knives were, I don't know, there's this special, this is kind of dumb to say, but for my American ears, it's like a special Britishness to them.
Yeah.
That just really, I don't know, it gives you this really, their storytelling gives you this really wonderful feeling. And they kind of came after the specials, after Madness, after the English Beat. So they really missed that whole two-tone era. They were definitely more in the like late 80s, early 90s. So ska was not popular, even in England, wasn't really doing well, but they formed this amazing band that often just gets overlooked.
Yeah, there was sort of a second ska revival in England in the late 80s, early 90s, but and there was
wasn't like it was before. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a bunch of really good bands, Hot Knives being one of them, but it didn't gain the mainstream success in the UK that it did there, and it didn't really come to the US hardly at all.
Exactly.
Hot Knives, though, yeah, definitely a band to check out if you're interested in this specific time period of ska. So Mike Park first retweeted your video, or it wasn't a video, it was just an audio, like an audio YouTube thing.
Yeah.
For Forget Me Not. And then Brian Fallon retweeted it, and in his tweet he talked about how a lot of people don't know this, but I'm an old school ska fan and Asian Man Records fan.
Yep.
I believe, I could be wrong, I believe this was Brian's introduction to ska Twitter.
Yeah, I think so. That's what it seemed like. Now he's engaging with people on it all the time.
Yeah, I don't recall him tweeting about ska or anything before that. So,
nope.
I guess what we're saying is that you, the Abruptors, brought Brian Fallon to ska Twitter.
Well, we'll take that.
You can put that on your gravestone.
Yeah, we were just happy that he actually responded. You know, that was all Mike, though. Mike was like, "I'm going to get him to say something. Hang on." So I was like, "Do you know him?" He goes, "No, not really." He goes, "But we'll get it to work." And we heard him on your show,
yeah.
You know, and you were asking him about it, and it was just nice to hear again that he really liked it, and this is awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're going to see him next week.
Oh yeah, like you're going to see him like live in concert. You're having coffee with him.
No, well, maybe we'll have coffee if he hears this. Brian, we'd love to have coffee with you, but no, we're going to a show, and our buddy Rick Johnson's going to be there with Jeff Rosenstock, and we're all going to hang out. So that'll be fun.
So you're friends with Greg Soden, right?
Yeah,
he has the Pop Propaganda Unscripted Moments podcast.
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing.
Tell us a little bit, because Greg's a friend of us. He's a friend of the show. He's a friend of yours. I'm just curious your connection to him and how you guys met.
So Greg moved to Buffalo. God, maybe I don't want to misspeak, but I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. And during the lockdown, it was like right at the end, everybody's starting to come back around, see each other, but we were still kind of wearing masks and staying away. And on Twitter, he just responded to something that I responded to from Asian Man Records. I forgot exactly how it went, but he just said, "Oh, hey," he's like, "I'm in Buffalo too." And, I'm not real social. I'm real bad at Twitter. So I was just like, okay, cool. Then he just keeps going, because that's how Greg is. He's very personable, talkative, and he's just like, "I live on this street. Where do you live?" And I'm like, I'm close by. He's like, "Oh, awesome." He's just like, yeah, he's like, "I'm actually right in that area." I was like, okay, cool. He starts private messaging me, and he's just giving me his address. and asking if he'd come over to the house. I was like, who the hell is this guy? And, we hadn't sold anything in a long time. So he was like, I want to come over and buy your stuff. Can I do that? I was like, oh, okay, sure. So he came over. We had a lovely conversation, had a lot in common. And from then on, we just kind of became friends. And, God, I think it was maybe a couple months after that, he was missing live music so bad. He's like, can I sit down at a practice? He's like, I'll just sit down and just watch you guys. And he did. We had a great time. And then he ended up moving literally down the street from me.
Wow.
Which was even weirder. So
now he's a neighbor.
Now he moved again, but he just moved like 2 weeks ago. But yeah, he's still in the area. So yeah, now he's a friend and he's just a really, really nice guy.
You guys are based out of Buffalo, New York?
Yep.
Buffalo is what? 5-6 hours away from New York City, or
6 to 6.5. Yeah.
What's the ska scene like in Buffalo right now?
Well, there is a few bands as of now.
Oh yeah.
I think the last time we did a podcast, I said you're talking to it. For the longest time, it's only us. They pop up, and as you guys well know, ska bands are really hard to keep together, and so every time there is one that pops up, it falls apart pretty quickly. But there are two. There's I'll give a shout out to Skamagachi is one of them that just came around.
Skamagachi.
What type of ska are they?
You couldn't tell by the name? It's definitely based in the I would say the third wave.
Uh-huh.
But they're very tight, a lot of fun. Then there is the Working Class Stiffs, who are totally very ska punk, Suicide Machines feel, extremely tight, awesome guys. But that's it.
You guys get the opening slot to bands that come through town frequently, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's because people like us or if we're the only ones around.
Well, there's Skamagachi now.
Yeah. But I think the Slackers still might want the Abruptors and Skamagachi.
Yeah.
But maybe Skamagachi would open.
Yes, Skamagachi open, Abruptors main support, and Slackers headlining. This is the Buffalo of the future. Did you play? You opened for Sublime with Rome last night?
How was that?
I really enjoyed it. I thought, the crowd was a lot of fun. And people were dancing and into it. So it was probably the largest crowd we've played for in a little bit, just because, post COVID, it's been really hard to get a big crowd together. So it's just really nice to be able to play a big stage and look out and see just like hundreds of people having a good time. Yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed the evening, and I had tons of fun doing it.
What size rooms does Sublime with Rome play? Like, how big was the venue?
In Defense of Ska, we'll be right back.
Guess what? You can find unfiltered music conversation with This Is an Experiment. Hear the perspective of your new favorite artists, producers, and writers. There's no more boring interviews, just unfiltered chats that will leave you inspired. Discover new music and learn from the best. Tune in now to This Is an Experiment podcast and find new episodes every Wednesday on all major podcast platforms.
I'm Kira.
I'm Christian French.
I'm Flusterdamus.
I'm Philly.
I'm Baby Jake.
I'm Amelia Moore.
I'm Bipolar Sunshine.
I'm Ryan Oakes.
I'm Loverboy, and this is an experiment.
So they played at a venue called the Outer Harbor, which is actually just like a massive outdoor space.
Okay.
So yeah, it could fit. I don't know, Mike, how many? I don't know how many would fit in there.
Oh, thousands. Yeah, thousands. It was massive.
And it was pretty full?
No, not when we played.
We had a good couple hundred. There was a good couple hundred there.
Yeah, but a couple hundred in a space that holds thousands can feel defeating.
I mean, well, and she's telling the nice sides of stuff, and for me, it was like there's just a bunch of dude bros showing up yelling sexual comments at the girls. That was just like I'm gonna fucking shoot myself.
Yeah.
It was not the scene that we like to be associated with.
But you struggled through and made it work.
Yeah, I mean, she's right. It was so cold though. Oh my God. We were freezing.
Yeah, the wind was whipping around.
You guys got to wear those parkas. The like cool ska punk parkas. Yeah, or not ska punk, mod parkas.
Mod.
Excuse me.
What are some other bands that have come through that you've opened for?
Oh, I mean, everybody from Slackers, Mustard Plug, Toasters, all the classics that, come through. Hub City Stompers was just here for the first time.
We opened for Big D and the Kids Table right before the pandemic. Last night we opened for Modern English, which is for people.
Not a ska band.
Yeah, not a ska band, but
Hey, anything's a ska band if you skank hard enough.
You know what, though? The guitar player actually played with the Toasters for a while after they originally broke up. So there you go.
There you go. There's the ska connection.
So we're recording this in late September. Originally, your album was going to release. Actually, you said originally it was going to be in summer, and then it was going to be October.
Yep.
So I'm not sure when we'll release this. We'll probably release this to tie into when your album's actually available for pre-order. But tell me a little bit about just a little behind the scenes, just so people who don't realize how bad it is with vinyl these days.
Yeah, let people know about these supply chain issues.
As of now, as September 25th, you have no idea when your album's coming out, correct?
Absolutely none. And Mike Park has pulled our album from the pressing plant to put it into a different one because we were probably not going to get it until sometime next year.
Wow.
We were originally told it could take up to 8 months.
Right.
That was a long time. And then I think we're probably past the 8 months. Right, Tony? Are we past it?
We've got to be, because we recorded this last June.
Yeah.
Or July. I don't know. Sometime last summer we recorded it. And then.
So you recorded in 2021.
Yeah.
Wow.
And all the masters were done pretty quickly. Like Rick had a really quick turnaround on those, and it was pretty much done by the end of the year. So.
Yep.
So it's definitely been in the plant for quite a long time now.
So Mike sent it to the plant, and the plant said maybe summer, and then so the same plant was like, okay, it's going to be October now.
Yep.
And then it was like, hey guys, we really just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Mike doesn't even get an answer from him sometimes. We haven't even gotten a test pressing. We got nothing. So he just decided, you know what? I'm going to put it somewhere else. We're going to pull it. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So hopefully this new place will be able to do it. I don't know. Maybe somewhat quicker, I don't know.
Wow. It was, from what I understand, vinyl, the supply issues with vinyl were already getting bad before COVID just because of the demand. But then COVID made it worse. And we obviously, as your story illustrates, we haven't really, in this particular industry, we haven't really recovered for those long waits.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, 9 months right now is standard.
Right. Yeah. We seem to have a really bad history with releasing albums. Our first album was released, and then 4 to 5 months when we were planning on promoting it, the lockdown happened. So we didn't get to promote that one. And this one, we keep telling people we have another album, and now people just don't believe us.
Yeah. And you've already started the promotion process. You're releasing videos. It's sort of like new album coming, but we don't know when. You begin that process with the intention of there being a release date on the horizon that you know of. Yeah.
And that's, we had Chris Grau, who everybody knows is like the ska king for videos.
Mm-hmm.
And he does his own music, which he told me was just released in Clerks 3, which is awesome. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah.
But he came here to do videos for us. We had a blast. And, we thought, heck, we'll just start slowly releasing these videos. And now we're already past 2 of them. We only have 1 more left. And we're like, oh, we don't know what to do. We're glad people have been liking the music. That's always super awesome. I think they've been liking it better than the last album. So.
Yeah, the new album's great.
Thank you. Did Mike send it to you?
I asked him for days ago, and then I got a text saying that he didn't upload it yet. And then and he's like, we're going even further behind the curtain here. And so then he finally texted it to me yesterday evening.
Yeah, I texted him yesterday. I'm like, hey, you gonna send that album?
So no, it's a great album. Noticeably Cheerless.
That's the one.
Can you tell us a little bit of why you're calling the album Noticeably Cheerless?
Yeah. So Mike and I, for a really long time, we were, every Saturday making pizza and hanging out, watching different shows. And one of the shows we were on was Schitt's Creek. And there's a scene in the show where Moira walks into the little shop that David owns. And she just goes, "It's noticeably cheerless in here." And at that moment, Mike and I literally looked at each other. We were like, album name. And so we just pulled it from a quote from Schitt's Creek. But, you know, I feel like it fits us pretty well. So.
Oh, yeah. If you couldn't tell by the first single, you know, best wishes, warmest regards. So,
well, I was going to say, like, the whole record seems like it's serious. I mean, the music is upbeat, but the lyrics maybe not so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's us. That's always been us. You know, we are the opposite of, I guess, what a lot of people associate with ska, which is just happiness and good times. And we're like, you know, Captain Bring Down, and you know, we got good vibes, but we're gonna make you fucking miserable while you listen to us.
So I want to get a little bit into your history.
Yeah, that's always fun.
I know initially there was a band called B-Side Bastards.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you'd figure that out.
I read that you saw Deals Gone Bad live.
Mm-hmm.
And watching the singer kind of gave you a different perspective on the kind of ska you'd like to play.
Absolutely. 100%.
Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Oh, man. It's almost like a religious experience. I went in there with my mindset that this was going to suck. Like I was a lot younger and definitely was judging a book by its cover, which even now I look back on that and I'm like, what the hell was wrong with me? But, you know, we learn and we grow. But yeah, he had like this flannel shirt on. He had like the curly mustache. I don't know, he looked like Shmi from Hook, you know, and I just, I don't know, in my eyes, I was just like, this guy's going to play ska. I'm like, okay, sure. But holy crap, when he opened up his mouth, I lost my mind. Like, I was like, this is insane. I could not believe how good they were. Just, it was everything I ever wanted to do. And I just didn't know it could be done that well. And so I bought the album, listened to it religiously. And I tried to incorporate a lot of that into my previous band, which was just full of party punk rockers. And it was not going well. I was huge my whole life, like in the 50s, you know, whether it was doo-wop, soul, rockabilly style music. And I loved to sing, but we had a certain member who was quote unquote very punk rock. So I wasn't allowed to sing. I had to scream. If I wasn't screaming, it wasn't punk enough. So, you know, I brought a song to him called Don't Worry, which was our first Abruptors song. And he was like, nope, not playing that crap. I was like, all right. So I decided, I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm like, I'm going to quit this band and I'm going to start a new one. And I mean, that was the birth of the Abruptors.
So was the B-Side Bastards a band you joined then?
No, it was when I started. But back then, I was very democratic. I wanted people to have a say, which after reading interview after interview of things Mike has talked about with like Skanking Pickle, I realized like what an awful idea that is, at least for someone like me, someone like Mike, where you always kind of have to be in control of stuff. Otherwise you get funk songs, you know?
Yeah. Did you have funk songs?
No, but we had like punk songs that were not what I wanted to do. I love punk rock. I do, always have. But it's not what I was going for. I started a ska band to play ska music. And, you know, those two can intertwine wonderfully. I had a ska punk band at one time, too.
What was it called?
737.
Is 737 not a thing anymore?
It is, and it isn't. Like our bass player, who was the original Abruptors bass player, had a baby. We did release an MU330 cover for that same comp. And Andy has just got a lot going on in his life. But we have the understanding that whenever we want to play together again, we can do it. It's always there.
Got it. Yeah.
But yeah, as far as B-Side went, I wanted to start another band, and I guess terrible as it sounds, I just told everybody when I started it, I'm like, this is like, I have the final say of what we're gonna do. I was sick of arguing with people. I was sick of like agreeing to stupid things that I didn't like. That was how it started, I guess.
Toni, were you into the B-Side Bastards?
No.
Oh, you sound so disappointed.
Well, so I was in a ska band at the same time.
Rival
that,
ska.
Yeah, we were a rival ska band, but
We hated each other.
no, we didn't hate each other. To be quite honest, I'm always a little bit like, I'm very introverted. So I'm very much the person that like show up, play the show, and then like go hide somewhere. So I don't really pay a lot of attention to my surroundings or anything. And so Mike and I had been in, the same room plenty of times before we played in the Abruptors together. And I felt really bad because I honestly was like, oh, how many times did we play together? Like, just because that's just who I am. Like, I don't know. I always find a good place to sit far away from lots of people. So
What was your band called?
we were Lightning Killed My Parents.
Lightning Killed My Parents. Wow.
we were definitely like more like party rock ska.
Yes, they were.
Yeah. Definitely not Mike's cup of tea. So we were not.
What was your role in the band?
So Mike and I are very similar in the way where we like to be the ones making decisions. So when I was in Lightning Kill My Parents, I played saxophone, but did a lot of songwriting and like helped a lot with like merch decisions and stuff like that too.
Did you start the band then, or did you join somebody else's band that was already started?
This was a college band that we had all like,
Oh, okay.
We wanted to start a ska band, and we were, just throwing around song name or band names and stuff like that, and decided that's what it was going to be.
But you were there in the beginning.
Yeah.
You brought up merch.
Yes.
Did Lightning Kill My Parents have good shirts?
We had one of our shirts was a dinosaur with a lightning bolt.
Okay.
So we had a lot of like weird, I don't know, definitely not things you're going to see the Abruptors release.
but probably a lot of lightning themed art.
Yeah, there was another one with like a skeleton being electrocuted, and
Love it.
Feels like you can lean heavily into the dead parent visual too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I once had a Lightning Killed My Parents sticker on the back of my car, and there was like a random man in the parking lot who was very concerned that was an experience I had in my life. And he was like, "Is that real for you? Is that real?" And I was like, "No, that's just the name of my band." And then he was even more upset with me because he couldn't understand why that was the name of my band. It was a very odd interaction. But yeah, it's definitely a unique band name.
Yeah, that would be a weird way to process your parents' death, is to just make a proclamation and put it on your car and drive around.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was a weird interaction. I quickly got in my car and tried to drive away as fast as possible.
I mean, I think enough time has passed, and I could actually see an Abruptors shirt with a parents being electrocuted by lightning.
Oh my Lord.
And it looking cool. I don't know. We'll have to do the mock-up.
How do you feel about that, Mike?
Not great.
I'm seeing something that I think would be really good.
Well, you design it. You can send it to us.
Sure. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Tony, what was your when you were in college? What was your interest in ska? What kind of bands were you interested in? And what was your idea of like what it would be like to be in a ska band?
Yeah, so I'm going to be really honest. Like my introduction to ska was super stereotypical. I think the first ska band I saw live was Big D and the Kids Table, and I think they were doing like university tour or something like that. And they played in like the cafeteria of the Fredonia, SUNY Fredonia establishment there. And I played saxophone, and I just knew I wanted to play in a band, and I was just happy to play in a band. But it was a lot of fun, when you're in college, you just want to like go out and play shows and have fun, and everybody's, partying and stuff like that. So that's really what that band was. And we did a few tours, like a few, 30 days at a time. I think we went out like 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
But I think we released like one album, but it was just fun. And that's really all I expected from it,
Do you have a show that you can imagine that was the most fun Lightning Killed My Parents show you've ever experienced?
Honestly, the one that I think stands out to me the most was really just a house show.
Sure.
Yeah, it was just like packed with people who were all just there to have a good time. And everyone's dancing so hard that you're afraid the floor is going to collapse. So that's one that stands out to me as like one of the most memorable. We had our fair share of like, I think at one point we opened for Big D and stuff like that too. But I don't know, they were all just fun. We used to play North Carolina a lot. You're always more popular when you're not in your hometown. So you used to get show offers in North Carolina, and we just drive out for the weekend, and those shows were a lot of fun too.
So let's take a step back. So in B-Side Bastards, were you more into ska punk at that point?
No, I've always been into all things ska.
Okay.
Yeah, I've loved everything. So I think it was a weird transition though, because like in Buffalo, like I've said, we never have had a really great ska scene. It's not been strong. So I've tried to start a ska band like 100 times, and it always fell through. So when I did B-Side Bastards, I was able to like pull some of my punk friends into it. And maybe I was lying a little bit when I told them we'd play something like ska and punk, but I was lying. And I kept trying to like push it into the just like straight up ska direction. Like when we started, I had a distortion pedal, and I slowly like stopped bringing it to practice. You know what I mean? And people were like, "Hey, where's your distortion pedal?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I forgot it." And they're like, "This is your house. You live here, you know?" So I just kind of like pushed everybody in that direction. But it is kind of weird too, because when I started the ska punk band, it was after that. And I think it was more not to play punk music. It was because I was so like mad at the horn players at the time. They were driving me insane. And I was just like, well, to hell with this. I'm going to start a 3-piece punk band. And I'm like, nah, shit. You can't really do that without, or a ska band. You can't really do that without some punk in there. Because with no horns, you need something to really balance out, you know, something. Because if it's just clean all the time with guitar, it's just empty.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I was going through some stuff, I guess.
So when you started the Abruptors, so did you piece together the band from different members of these different bands?
Kinda. It was weird. I decided, like, I talked to the drummer he hated drums in B-Side. He hated it. He played drums because we couldn't find a drummer. That was it. And he's like, I want to play keys. He's like, I want to play keys. I am done with the drums. And I was like, fine, you play keys, but we're leaving this band. You and me, we're gone. And he said, okay, sure. He goes, on one condition. He goes, we got to take one of the horn players with us. And I was like, motherfucker. I was trying so hard not to take any of them with us. I was going to do, like, originally the Abruptors was going to be like a Chinkies type style, right? Like heavy on the keyboards. It was going to be guitar, bass, and drums. And that was fucking it. Because I was just so over 7 people in this damn band.
Yeah, it's tough.
So he goes, you got to take one of them with us. And I was like, ugh, fine. So I picked one of the guys, which ended up being the worst decision of my life. Which I don't know how much Mike Parker's talked to you about that. We can get into that later if you want.
You've talked to me about it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I know I talked to you about it, Adam. Absolutely.
Well, we all need to hear about it. So.
Oh, well, then we'll talk about that.
Let's go.
You want to do it now?
Give us the lowdown of the band coming together. Then let's hear about this horn player.
So it was just us 3 from B-Side Bastards. And I had been playing in 737 at the time. And I said to the guys, Andy and Alex, hey, would you do me a favor and just play bass and drums on this EP I'm doing? I said, I just, want to get it out of the way to prove to myself that I can definitely play, what I had always dreamed of playing, but I need your help. And they said, of course. Yeah, absolutely. So I sent like one song. So we got 2 members of 737, 3 members of B-Side Bastards. That was the Abruptors. And then I found a random girl on Craigslist to do backup vocals. And so I sent a song to Mike Park after sending him probably like 100 songs and him just saying, hey, great job, and then ignoring me. And finally I got an email back. He was just like, hey, this is great. He's like, let's put it out a 7-inch, and at that point I'm like, oh my God, wasn't really anticipating that. So I had to go back to Andy and Alex and say, hey, I know I said that you guys just had to record a few songs, but would you be interested in joining this band? That wasn't really supposed to be a band. And they said, sure. They're easygoing, awesome people. And that's really how the band started, but it did not stay that way because same kind of problems started to arise and more problems. So
yeah. So Well, I asked Greg a little bit about like, hey, is there any good anything I should ask the Abruptors when I interview them? This is what he wrote. He said, tell them, hey, I noticed your early lineup had a huge horn section. Then you pulled back and you didn't have a bassist. Wait, no, you didn't have any, and you had a different bassist, and now you're up to a bigger lineup. Tell me about the fluctuation of the band. He's like, ask that and then just sit back and listen.
Okay. Well, yeah. So the first lineup was what I just told you. The horn section was kind of weird because I told you I pulled one horn guy from B-Side Bastards, but this guy decided that he wasn't going to play our first shows, so he bails. So now I got to go and grab. Now this is the guy that I'll be telling you a bigger story about later, which is just insanity. But I pull another B-Side Bastards horn player to fill in because at the time we're still playing like half B-side songs, right? Because we didn't have enough for a set. So I got to pull another B-side horn player. So long story short, we end up with two horns from B-sides, the guys I'm trying to get away from. And so, we carry on like that for a little bit. Eventually I just kind of lose my patience again. And I was trying to like assert what I had said in the beginning, that like I get final decision. And it just, I don't know. I'm still trying to be fair, but at that point I lost my patience. About a year and a half in, I said to the one horn player, I said, okay, that's it. I said, you got to go. I said, you are an awesome person, really nice guy, but I cannot take you playing. You're just noodling like crazy. He wasted like 2 hours of recording time. He says to me, I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, well, I'm making up the horn solo. I said, we're recording. Why do you not have? And he goes, well, I just thought I'd do it now. And I literally, Andy, our bassist at the time, goes, Mike, he goes, take a walk. Just take a walk, because he could see me like losing my patience. And after that, I said, okay, you got to go. He missed the flight to California.
There's a really good picture of Mike in that recording studio looking like he's about to lose it. I wasn't in the band at the time, but I've been privy to the photo.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I was just so mad. And he had missed his flight to California when we played the Asian Man. I don't know if it was the 20th that he missed or it was the one before that, but whatever. He missed his flight. He was that kind of guy. Nice guy, but for the life, you cannot count on him for anything. It was awful. So we decided we're going to carry on with one horn player. And we did that for a little bit. Then Andy, our bass player, and I started to butt heads a little bit. He was very much like, he liked to do his home life. He liked to do the office life. And then whatever was left was cool for the band. But at that time, we're getting a lot of shows. So we're just butting heads. I want to play shows. He doesn't want to play shows. He decides to leave. Me and him have stayed cordial, no big deal. He was a great bass player. He still is a great bass player. But I think just what we wanted out of the band was different.
Yeah, I think like having everybody being on the same page for what you want out of the band is like one of the most important things about making a band work.
Oh, it totally is. And, but so many times people's feelings get caught in that. So like, it's kind of like a relationship. If you break up with somebody, it doesn't always mean you hate them. Sometimes it's just not right for the both of you. Yeah. And that's kind of how it is for the band. Like, I don't hate you. I hope you don't hate me. And you're an amazing player, but maybe we both want something different out of this. But sadly, the other 5 of us actually want to go and play the show, and you do not. So we ended up parting ways with him, and we had to find another bass player real fast. So we had like a temp guy for a while that didn't work out. And then we found our second bass player, and we found Toni as well, who was playing saxophone. And I didn't really want her in the band, to be honest.
Damn.
She knows this, and it's not her.
I know this very well.
Yeah, it's just like horns, I love horns, love them. I hate the people behind them, apparently. So,
but luckily, Alex, the drummer, knew me from college, and he was like, "Hey, you got to let her play." So that's actually how I ended up being in the band.
So, and then we're playing for a while, and I see this video of Toni online, and she's singing, and I see her practice. I'm like, "You didn't tell me you could sing."
What is this video?
It was her in a cover band, I believe, right, Tony? Or was it the one where you took the microphone from that other guy? I don't.
No, it's I think it was one at practice that I had shared, because
Okay.
it was when I had just decided to try to start singing with a band. So it was like my first attempt ever actually behind a microphone. So I was really self-conscious about it at the time, and Mike was like, "Hey, I didn't know you could sing." I was like, "I didn't know I could either."
So, at that time, a lot of time, I'm always been into Hepcat. I absolutely love the fact that they have 3 singers. I thought that, and their voices are magical. So I thought to myself, like, we could have 3 singers. Toni plays sax, but she could kind of be like Destin Barry on the keys, where he only sings a few songs. He does a lot of harmonies. And so that's how we did maybe 3 years of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did about 3 years of that. And it was getting we were getting a lot of steam. A lot of people were loving us, loved the harmonies. But I'd say maybe about 2.5 years in, it started to fall apart again. And it was due to jealousy. A couple of factors there. I don't know if you guys want to get into this now, but this is where we can start.
Let's go.
Get into it.
So we lost 3 members at the beginning of COVID. And we had decided to let them go due to various reasons. One, the other singer was getting very jealous of Toni singing. She didn't like that. And you try to say, well, it's cool, like, she's not taking songs away from you. I don't sing when she sings either. Like, it's not a big deal. And she says, well, I stand there. I don't play anything. And you're like, well, you could if you wanted. Like, nobody's telling you not to. You just chose not to learn an instrument. I'm sorry about that. And so, it's like, it was like, let's blame the world instead of try to fix this. I told her, I said, if you want to grab a guitar, I can teach you how to play ska. It's not hard, but she didn't want to learn. So she started singing over us, to the point where there's videos on YouTube. You guys go ahead and check them out. Where she's literally screeching like on top of us. We're trying to yell so that she's noticed. And it was like, we had a couple conversations. We were like, hey, can you just dial it back? You're kind of like singing out of tune. No, I'm not. Okay. Yeah, it's not, I'm not arguing. I'm just trying to let you know, it's trying to constructive criticism. But the answer was always, no, I'm not. And so that was the reason we let her go. We were like, I can't do this anymore. And Toni and I were working together on weekends, and we invited her. She didn't want to come. We were working on our voices and writing songs together. And we were meshing like really well together at that point. But then you got like Screaming McGee on top of you. And it was just making us sound really bad.
A sound like lightning.
Yeah.
It became hard too, though, because like as Mike and I are writing songs, you're forming the song and you have an idea of like, oh, what parts I can sing and what parts Mike can sing and how the harmonies are going to work together and who's going to take which line. And, we would get really excited because we write this song that we were just like super pumped about. We love the lyrics because all of our lyrics are personal to us. So, but then we felt like we had to find a place for the other singer, and it just made it really difficult. Like we almost felt like we were like forcing it and trying to like fit her into spots where we didn't really need another spot. You know what I mean? Just for the sake of like, finding something for her to do, I guess.
Yeah.
Where it was easier with the songs on the first album because these weren't things that I had helped write. I kind of showed up late and like rewrote some of the horn lines and stuff like that. But I didn't have a big influence on the lyrics or anything like that.
Well, you did write a song.
If Aaron had been in your band at the time, he could have showed her how to juggle. She could have done that.
Well, Toni knows how to juggle as well. So.
Oh yes, I've seen that. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your juggling history, and I'll tell you about my juggling history.
I mean, when I was a kid, my dad taught me how to juggle.
That's it. Okay.
I had a book that was like, you put the ball in the palm of your hand.
What you don't know is her dad was actually a circus clown.
No, but
okay.
Well, but I don't know. My dad's got a lot of hobbies. He learns a lot of different things. And I think at one point he built me a pair of stilts. I mean, just like walking around in the driveway of our house on a pair of stilts. So he's got a lot of different interests. But because of that, I also learned a lot of unique things.
I got obsessed with juggling when I was in junior high. Me and my friend, and for like a year or two, that was like all we did. So, we did a talent show performance in junior high where we did a whole juggling routine, and it was funny in retrospect because all the other acts were like karaoke or like little skits. Like there weren't stuff that people had an actual talent that they came and did, but we did an actual like juggling routine. And I moved on from juggling, but I have muscle memory. I could still juggle 3 balls. I can do 4 balls. Okay. I can do 5 balls for like 10 to 15 seconds, maybe. And I can do 3 clubs.
Wow.
Oh,
You
yeah.
definitely have a higher caliber of juggling talent than I.
Yeah.
I'm still on the 3-ball circuit.
It's interesting though, people talk about muscle memory like riding a bike and stuff, but it's weird to be like, oh, I'm grab these balls and juggle them, and like your body just does it. It's so strange. Like you haven't done it for years, and your body's like, oh, I know
It's
how
so
to do that.
true though, because I think the first time, like when we were recording our music video, there's a little scene where TJ and I are both juggling, and I did it very poorly, and Chris made it look like I knew what I was doing. But it's true though, like I hadn't juggled for maybe like, I don't know, like 8 years, and I was like, oh, I'll do this. I could give it a shot, and I juggled long enough for it to matter, and that's all that counts.
So Mike Park is part of your story pretty early on. That I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's been really he's been the guy like I go to when I have questions. Even when I was like, I called him up and I'm like, Mike, I want to kick these 3 people out of the band. I'm like, is that bad? Is that gonna fuck my band up? And he's just like, well, what's going on? And I told him, and he goes, yeah, get rid of them. He goes, they're gone. He's like, don't let them drag you down. He's like, just get rid of them. But yeah, it was only a couple months into our history that he was just like, yeah, let's do a 7-inch. Cool.
It's particularly interesting too, because there's not a whole lot of ska that's been on Asian Man for the last decade.
No, I was very surprised. I was just like, I think I actually have the email where I wrote back. I said, holy shit, are you serious? Because I didn't really believe him. I don't know if he was just finally trying to like get me to leave him alone. But yeah, I was absolutely in shock. And I'd been an Asian Man fan since I was 11. So very long time. And I did not remember any ska band on there for the past 15 years. That wasn't him.
Yeah. Or at least like a band that
was already there.
Yeah. Like, Slow Gherkin's got like a collection of B-sides. So he'll release that.
Exactly. But like no new bands. And I'm like, why me? I think I've said that to him in the past too. I was like, why? I was like, why us?
Did he ever tell you why?
Because you're nice people. That's the answer I got.
You're the only nice people out there.
That's what he tells me. I don't know.
That's all it takes, folks. Just be nice people.
I was like, wow, there's a lot of assholes out there, I guess.
I read another one said that Mike came to town. He was on tour with Alkaline Trio.
Oh yeah.
And then he had dinner at your mom's house.
That was the second time.
This is the first time you met him, right?
No. First time I met him was 2014, year before Abruptors started.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a funny story. Oh, she's laughing. So
I love this story.
I have a really good relationship with one of the companies that does like a lot of the big shows. They do anything from ska to Gaslight Anthem next week. And they've been really good to us in any band I've ever played in. But they'll ask me, they'll go, Mike, I got this band coming. Like, do you want to get in for free and just watch the show? And so this time, his name is Dennis, awesome dude, still works with the company. And he'll be like, Mike, Streetlight Manifesto's coming next week. You want to go watch them? I, unfortunately, am not a big Streetlight fan. I don't really like them. I don't get them. I don't understand it. That's just me. So I was like, nope, no, thank you. And that was the end of it. But I see this post that says Mike Park and Dan Pothaste are opening. So immediately I was like, you stupid idiot, go to the show. So I called Dennis back up and I was like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely go. So I did. I went last minute and I saw Mike Park there. And I was the worst possible version of me that I could have been that day. I feel horrible, and I hope Dan doesn't remember this, but I'll remind him right now.
Yeah, please refresh his memory.
I actually asked Dan to like take the photo of me and Mike. And I was like, you stupid ass. I was with my ex-wife at the time. So I was like, you could have just asked her to take the photo of the two. Oh my God, I feel like such a jerk. And I was just, I think Mike was just like giving me the one-word answers. He's like, oh, yeah, great. And then I had him hold up a CD of B-Side Bastards. This is he's actually, that's the photo I have for him on my phone now, just to remind myself of what an asshole I am. And he's like giving the thumbs up. And I think he told me he threw that in the trash later. So that was like my first interaction with Mike Park. He comes back maybe 6 months later to do his weddings. Somehow somebody in Buffalo hired him to do a wedding. Came back. He's with Hero. You know Hero? Does the photo?
Oh, yeah.
And oh my God, I forgot his other friend's name. But he's with two people, and he posts on Facebook, do I know anybody in Buffalo? And immediately, like a shark in a school of fish, I'm just there. I'm in there. And I'm like, yes, Mike, you know me. Do you remember me? I was that weird guy at the streetlight show. And he's like, yes, I do remember you. So that probably wasn't great. As Mike Park is, he just like randomly gives me his phone number. I don't know why he does that to this day. I'm like, I could murder you. Do you know this? Like, you don't know this apparently. So I called him up and I'm just like, hey, I just actually bought this Chinkies poster. Would you sign it for me? He's like, yeah, sure. I'm staying at this hotel. We hang out. And he just like says to me, I'm the one doing all Dan Potay's living room tours. I was like, oh, I said, yeah, I was thinking about having him in my house, except for I don't like people and I don't want them in my home. So he somehow convinced me to do it anyway, because Dan needed a place coming from Canada to play, which, living where we live, it's like 10 minutes from Canada. And so we kind of stayed in contact through all that. And periodically I would send him music, and he didn't like it. And that day, when we were talking about Dan Potay's, he texts me and he just goes, hey, where can I eat in Buffalo? So I named some like Buffalo staples. I was like, I don't know, there's Ted's, there's, I think a bunch of wing places I named, chicken wing places. And then as a joke, I said, or you can just come to my mom's house. And he goes, cool, what's the address? And so him and Hero and the other gentleman that was with him come to my mom's house for this big like family dinner. And Hero, who weighs about 90 pounds, probably ate like 25 pounds of food. Like he was just stacking it away. And, it was a good time.
Can you remember what your mom served?
Oh yeah, it was chicken and steak. And
chicken and steak? Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Chicken and steak.
And steak.
All right. I like how your mom gets down.
There you go. Yeah. And just amazingly, she made too much, which is something she usually doesn't do. So it was meant to be. But then I think Mike and I just kind of kept in contact, before we got signed to Asian Man. Just him telling me that he's not going to do anything with my music.
How did you present this to your mom, by the way? Where you're like, hey, there's some musicians in town that they really want to eat.
So she knew Mike Park. She knew how much I loved Asian Man Records.
Uh-huh.
So she understood like this is important. There's also kind of a funny story behind that. Like when I was a kid, I bought Less Than Jake's Pescore, and the insert inside of it was an Asian Man Records insert. And I was like, yo, I want to order from the site. Like I want a Less Than Jake shirt. And I saw Link 80 at the time, like just the, Nick jumping. I was like, I don't know what that is, but it looks freaking awesome. I want that too. And she's like, I am not going to give this random guy my credit card number. Like, this was like, my God, I don't know what year this was. It was 90 something. And I convinced her to do it. But back then, like shipping was so long. So she was convinced that Mike Park had stolen her credit card number and that she was never like, she was going to lose a lot of money. I was never getting this stuff. And so, fast forward, then he was now eating at her house. I was like, see, he's real. I did end up getting the Link 80 CD and the Less Than Jake t-shirt like 10 to 12 weeks later.
Damn, that is a long wait. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really long time. But yeah, so the Alkaline Trio thing happened when we were already signed. That was 2017. We've been signed since 2015.
Gotcha. Okay, so these were separate occasions: the Alkaline Trio and the mom barbecue. Yeah.
Yeah, I just texted Mike and I was like, I know you're coming through with Alkaline. I said, I saw you need help at the merch booth. I was like, you want me to do it? And he was like, yeah. He's like, absolutely. I said, do you guys need a place to stay? And he said, yes, that would be wonderful. So again, he had dinner at my mom's house. Actually, his whole band did. Maura Weaver was there. Sim, he was there. I think you guys know him, right?
Yeah, Sim Castro.
Yeah, he was there. It was awesome. It was really fun. They stayed at my house. We watched. I don't know if it was. I think it was Infinity War. We all like huddled around my TV. Maura, myself, and Maura's friend, I forgot her name, Megan. We all stayed up into the night singing Green Day songs on an acoustic guitar. It was awesome. We had a really, really fun time.
I want to ask a question that both of you feel free to jump in. I don't want to say you guys are quote unquote traditional ska, but let's distinguish between a ska band that has punk elements versus a ska band that does not have punk elements. And you're in that category.
Yeah.
What has it been like, the existence of the Abruptors from 2015 is when the band started, right?
Yep.
Did you feel like part of a larger scene, not part of a larger scene? Have you felt part of the overall ska scene that includes punk oriented bands, or do you feel like part of just a specific scene? I'm curious, both of your takes on that.
For me, I started the band to be a two-tone traditional band. That was my original vision. Eventually I felt very pigeonholed. You know what I mean? Like, this, like the way you play guitar, I'm like, wow, that sounds just like the same fucking song I just wrote. So eventually, like when Toni joined the band, we decided we were going to just branch off and be a ska band. It was no longer about what wave it was. It was just going to be a ska band. I don't think, honestly, and Toni can correct me if she feels this is incorrect, but I still feel like we don't really fit anywhere.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's all these bands from Bad Time Records that are awesome and they're collaborative and they're getting together. And while they've all treated us amazingly and we've made some awesome friends out of them, we still don't feel in this new ska scene all the time. We just don't. And it's probably because we don't sound like them. While we don't sound traditional and we don't get roped in with them, we don't sound punk either. So we always seem to be left out of a lot of things that are happening, whether it be on ska Twitter or Instagram or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think because we're very like niche. Like I myself even kind of have a hard time describing how I would categorize us. Like we're just the Abruptors. Like I have really no other way to like, we bring influence from just everywhere and things we like. And like, I don't know, but I agree. I think it's hard, if we're playing with a more ska punk band, people show up and they're looking for something that moves a little faster than we do. Or, but we don't quite fit in with like the traditional crowd all the way. So I agree with Mike. I think we're like kind of out in our own realm, and that makes it fun, but also kind of hard at times because it's hard to like gain momentum, I guess,
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. There's like the bad time bands are definitely having some momentum, and there's diversity within that group, but it's not exactly what you're doing. But I don't see the fans of those bands necessarily not being into what you're doing. Maybe not all of them, but feels like a certain percentage of them would be totally down with what you guys are doing.
Oh, and there is, there's definitely times where people are just like, what new ska band should I check out? And you'd be like, Catbite, the Abruptors, and Bad Operation. Like, that's cool. It happens. But usually that guy just loves ska in general. But I run into people on a daily basis who, if you haven't heard of Operation Ivy and the Boss Tones, you have no idea what ska is. And that's their only brand of ska. They can't listen to the Slackers because it puts them to sleep. So, do you know what I mean? They're not looking at us.
Yeah, and some of the newer bands that play ska punk or ska core, it's like even heavier than what ska punk sounded like 20 years ago.
Yes, exactly.
So it's almost like the ska punk is getting heavier, while the not punk oriented ska is kind of going a little bit in a different direction too.
Yeah. And I think for me, I've always just loved, like I said before, I like grew up on like really like the 50s music and stuff. So I want to keep that in our band, like with harmonies and actual like singing and, so I don't think we're ever going to get to that point. We definitely, with Best Wishes, that was probably our fastest song we've ever written. A little more punk, I guess, but it's still not that fast compared to what people are doing.
Still clean too.
Yeah, I refuse the distortion pedal, so it's not for me.
So in terms of your look, like you have a nice look, but it's not necessarily straight up like from the dictionary version of what ska bands look like, but you still have style. Does that more come from what you're just saying, like your interest in like 50s and stuff like that?
I mean, for me, it is like, I can't speak for everybody in the band, but I play hollow body guitars. I love Vox guitar amps.
Do you have any conversations about what people are wearing? Because with a band of several members, with no instruction or no conversation, it's not like everyone just shows up looking like they all fit together.
Yeah, no, we definitely have conversations. In fact, one of our newest members, he just bought himself a polo shirt because he was looking like a dad going to golf for a while. So he was like coming up in like a yellow, like Lacoste, like polo. And I'm like, yeah, no. I was like, no. We're, I'm not strict on like the Fred Perry stuff, especially with everything that's gone down lately with that.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, Ben Sherman, Penguin, any of that kind of stuff is like, it's got a good look. It's got that like twin tip look that, that's basically what we aim for the guys.
What about for Toni? What about you? What is your reference point?
So it's kind of interesting because the way I just kind of like started dressing for shows was just how I normally dress. Like I'll wear the same outfit to work and then show up at a show. And that actually happened when we played for Sublime. But it's really interesting because I guess I wasn't exposed to a lot in my life. I don't know. I wasn't aware of like mod style or anything like that. But then when we were doing the music videos, Chris Grau, when he was doing like the styling and stuff, he's like, I really see you guys fitting into like the mod style. And I was pulling up a bunch of a bunch of the reference material he sent us, and I was like, oh, I already dress like this. So I would say it's probably more modern day mod, I guess, if you can say that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love that style and in the skirts and the the boots and all of that. So, but it's just funny because I showed up to Mike's house before the Sublime show, and I was like, I just got to go change real quick. I just showed up what I wore to work, and he's like, I thought you were already dressed for the show. So it's just how I dress normally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a person with zero fashion sense, but I appreciate a band that looks like a band that has some style to them, but it's also it feels natural. Like this is
thank you.
The people feel like this is what we look like, this is what we dress like, but it's also some thought put into it.
That was originally like what I had said when we started the band. Like, so we were going around and we were looking at all these bands. They come in ripped t-shirts and ripped jeans and they look like they just crawled out of the gutter.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But I said, what Buffalo doesn't have is people who put on a show. Like they're playing a show, but when was the last time you went to a show and a local band actually like dressed nicely? And we couldn't name one band. So that's kind of what started it for us. Not that obviously bands haven't been doing that for years, but nobody in Buffalo was doing it. And our idea was to stick out. Like we wanted to be noticed. We wanted people to take us more seriously, especially with all the punk roots in the band at the time.
Yeah.
With like a lot of people didn't want to touch us. Our name was B-side Bastards. Like when people would hire us, they'd cross our name out. It was so counterproductive. I can't even tell you.
and you spelled bastards wrong also.
On
Right.
purpose. It was like,
Yeah.
it was supposed to be like the selector, you know? Nobody ever got it. They just said, "Oh, what'd you do? Rip off Inglorious Bastards?" I was like, at the time I had not even seen the movie. So I don't know.
Okay. I don't know much about Buffalo's music scene, but I do know the bands that I'm aware of that came from Buffalo, completely all over the map.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So have you ever seen any of them at shows? Let's go through the list of a few well-known Buffalo musicians, and you tell me if you've ever seen them at a show skanking.
Okay.
All right? Or both of you, please. Ani DeFranco.
Nope.
That's disappointing.
Well, get ready for this answer a lot.
Cannibal Corpse.
Nope.
Goo Goo Dolls.
Nope. See him at a show, but
Wow. You've seen him at a show.
yeah, Robbie, the bass player, he does a lot with like local music around here.
Okay. Have you seen him at a ska show?
No.
You know, the drummer follows me on Instagram, so
Which one?
I don't know.
Oh, well, we were just having this conversation with a buddy of ours who's very close to them, and they have like a bad history with drummers.
Oh, okay.
Treating them very poorly. So
All right. And the final one, Snapcase.
no.
Dang. Do you actually go to shows?
We go to shows a lot, but nobody comes to ska shows unless you like ska music, and that's not a lot of people in Buffalo.
Sure. Okay, wait. When you saw the bass player from Goo Goo Dolls, was he wearing shoes?
Oh man, that's a long time ago. I would have to say yeah.
Famously doesn't wear shoes, so
I didn't even know that. But yeah, he was running the Music is Art Festival when we saw him, and he's just all over the place. So
let's just imagine he wasn't wearing shoes.
Yeah, I think that fits.
Just for the aesthetic.
Brian Diaz from Edna's Goldfish told me once in a conversation that Snapcase likes ska. He gave me that lowdown.
interesting.
I could see that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know any of them personally.
Yeah, maybe we just don't know who they are. Like I wouldn't be able to pick them out of a crowd.
I know who some of the guys are. I would notice them if I saw them at a show, but I just, they're also older, and I feel like a lot of older crowd does not come out unless they're playing. So
So you should play a show with Snapcase and see what they do.
that would be cool. It would be a weird mix match, but
Oh, wait. So, okay. We talked about fashion and we talked about a guy in your band that was problematic.
no, we didn't. We talked
all-
about how we let the girl go. We never got back to the other two.
Right. We're getting back to him now.
Okay. So I'm saving the best for last. Okay. So the original keyboard player, they had to let him go because we found some very upsetting messages on our own Instagram that he was messaging random people, was not appropriate.
Whoa. Oh, wow.
And then he also got his ass kicked out of Canada for trying to illegally live there.
Nice.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, because the worst part was, like, at this time, we're working very heavily and closely with Matt from the Planet Smashers. He liked us, still likes us, I think. And he was giving us shows, like awesome shows. Like he would message me and go, "You want to go on a 3 festival tour with the Planet Smashers?" I'm like, "Fuck yes, I do." All in Canada. Awesome. Not a problem. Then this dumbass gets kicked out of Canada for trying to illegally live there. And he missed one of our shows because he thought he could just waltz back in. He called me and he's just like, "Man, they won't let me back in Canada. What the fuck?" And I'm like, "Are you serious? Of course they're not going to let you back in, you stupid idiot." Like,
We knew that was going to happen, and we didn't let him ride with us in the van. We were like, if you're going to try to get in, you got to go on your own.
so, again, let him go. So the other last gentleman, using that term very lightly, he was the guy who didn't show up to his own first show. He would cancel practice. I think he maybe made half of the practices in 5 years, half of them. He never wrote his own horn lines after Toni joined, just let her do it all. And he was stealing from us, merch wise. He was pocketing money. So we were finally like, that's it. He's gone, and it was COVID. So all of our shows were canceled. Everything was just shut down. And I turned to the band and I said, guys, I said, I know you're not going to love what I have to say, but I said, I want all three of them gone. And I'd been saying this for a very long time. But it was, how could you, when we had so many shows and we didn't know how to like operate because we didn't have any replacements, nothing. We just kind of like let things slide. And so amazingly, everybody was actually on board at that point. I think everybody was just tired of it. So I sent out a message and I just said, hey, I said, I talked with the band. I said, I think we're going to have to part ways with you guys. If you'd like to call me, we can discuss this. And I gave each one an individual reason of like why. Never heard from the girl. She was like, oh, you guys are toxic. I'm done with you anyway. I was like, yeah, good. Goodbye. Then with the keyboard player, he called me. He tried to argue a little bit. No big deal. Let that go. He came, picked up his stuff peacefully. That was it. The sax player, however, decided to send me back a trademark with a message saying, just so you know, your band is done. Change your name and write up new music because I own the band. So we're all in hysterics, laughing because we're like, okay, big shot. Like, I'm sure you did that. That costs money and you're cheap as fuck.
Yeah. My literal response at the time was like, I don't think you understand how this works.
I mean, you don't trademark music, you trademark a name. So you could already tell he didn't really know what he was doing. And all the copyright, that's what you do with music, is you copyright it, would be through myself, Tony, or Asian Man Records, who has put this stuff out for us. So we just laughed at him. Continued on our way. Tony's learning keyboards because she was going to be, keyboard sax. I get a notice in the mail from a lawyer, and it's a cease and desist. And at this point, I'm like, is this guy, like, is he on drugs? Like, what? I don't know what the hell's going on. I couldn't believe it, but he actually trademarked the name years before we kicked him out.
I think like 2019, he trademarked it.
Wow, so he anticipated this?
Yeah. So we have a theory, and, in all fairness, we could be completely wrong because it is a theory. But around the time, when I joined the band, we never had any money. And I was always asking Mike, like, why don't we have money? Like, I see Evan sell stuff at shows all the time. And Mike was like, I don't know. We just don't make money. I was like, well, let me take over merch and I bet you we'll have money suddenly. So I took over merch and suddenly the band had money. And our theory is that after I took over merch from him, he went and trademarked the name of the band as like a
safeguard,
safekeeping. Yeah. Like a way to like protect himself. I don't know. I'm not really quite sure. But it was around the same time. It was in 2019. It could have also been because we were like recording an album too. Like there's a couple possibilities, but he's very business minded and he often sues people. So this isn't something that is very much it's a surprise because who does this? But at the same time, like,
he has a history.
Yeah, he's got a history of doing these kinds of things.
So
wow.
we end up like contacting Tony's sister, who is a lawyer or went to law school. And she recommended a trademark lawyer for us. Now, we didn't want to do this. I called up Mike, and Mike's response was, change your name to the Abruptors Ska. Problem solved. That's what he said.
That's not a cool name, though.
So I was like, I don't know if that's how that works. And it turns out it's not. So, I got a free like consultation with this lawyer. And she told me, she's like, yeah, don't do that. She's like, that makes you look like you don't want your own name. I was like, okay. So she was really kind. And after listening to our story, she was like, this is also really stupid. And so she, out of the kindness of her heart, decided to not charge us anything and just charge us like the government fee. But the government fee to fight this was massive.
Yeah, it was $3,000 just to respond to Evan and like say that he wasn't the rightful owner of the trademark.
Now, so she says to us what he did was fraudulent. It's completely illegal. but the way a trademark works, that if he got through the system, even if it's fake, I now have to prove that it's fake. And while I could do that, she said to me, you can win at $200 or you can win at $10,000. She's like, how do you want to win? And I was like, well, shit, we don't make any money. You know what I mean? We can't just go spending $10,000 to get my own damn name back. So we decided, like, we're going to file the paperwork somehow and just go from there. We had kind of like a cutoff point of how much money we were going to spend, but we had to come up with $3,000. So this is kind of weird. We get this random email from IBM, the computer company, and they're like, hey, we're looking to put together a online concert for all of our workers during the lockdown. And we saw your videos of you playing in your living room, and we're going to pay you $3,000 to make a couple of those for us. And I was like, who the fuck is this? I thought it was fake. And the guy's like, no, he's like, seriously, I'll just pay you $3,000 if you make these videos. I'm like, me sitting on a couch with my bandmates with horrible audio quality, and you're going to pay me $3,000. And he did.
Yeah, it's exactly like a movie where the characters are, the problem is set up. That's the lawsuit and the $3,000. And then the solution comes by way of a company wanting to pay you the exact amount.
The exact amount.
That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy? And so the only stipulation they had, which is also kind of funny, was that they saw in our videos I had a Chinkies poster, and they wanted it down because they thought I was, I guess, a racist.
So they were like, even though we think you're racist, we really like your videos. And
I guess they were cool with me just taking it down. Yeah. And so luckily, like, the guy who actually had hired us was like, I actually know the Chinkies. He's like, I tried to explain to them that's not what it is. And they're like, nope, gotta go down. So we took that down. But yeah, we made these videos, paid us the money. We fought them. It got a little weird because I started getting all of our stuff started coming down. So he's sending takedown notices, lost our Bandcamp, lost our
Spotify,
lost our YouTube. We somehow, thank God, kept the Facebook. I have no idea how we managed that. I think because I guess their rules are different. Because I can make a Star Wars page if I want, and Star Wars can't take it down. So he makes this Abruptors page. And this is kind of funny because I messaged Adam about this.
Yeah.
And he starts inviting all of my friends. And I was like messaging them. I'm mortified, right? I think when I messaged Adam, I'm like, hey, dude, I'm like, this is embarrassing. This guy stole my band name and decided to start a whole nother one. Could you please unlike the page? I had to send that out to like 100 people. It was so embarrassing. But all of them were very understanding. Because they were like, yeah, I was like, I thought I liked your band. I don't know what the fuck is going on. And I would tell them, and they would say, the guy in the ugly suits?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
owns the band? I was like,
That's what I really wanted to get to.
yeah.
the ugly suits.
Dude, Carnes, have you seen this dude's suits?
I don't know.
Like, all completely checkerboard, head to toe, but like white and blue, right?
He had a bunch of them. He had the flamingo suit with the shorts. He had the Boss Tones suit with the plaid. He even at the very end, and I hope he feels really stupid about this now, had a suit made with our logo on it.
Oh my God.
I hope he's still wearing that one.
My favorite though is sometimes I don't have a filter and I just say what's on my mind. And he showed up to a show in a suit from that head to toe was just like gumballs. And me being the person that I am, literally burst out laughing and said, "You look like a clown." And then I felt bad, but
But then you stop feeling bad a little while later.
yeah. But at first I was like, maybe I shouldn't have said that. That was probably a little mean. But then later I was like, nah, he deserved it.
But I felt bad originally because he would show up, have like a backwards hat. You know, you just look really out of place. And I was like, Evan, I've seen you wear these really nice suits in some of your Facebook photos. I'm like, why don't you make that your thing? Put on that really nice white suit you have. And so instead of taking that advice, he was just heard the word suit and he started having these really bad custom suits made. So I feel like I blame myself for that one.
Yeah, and red flag early on.
Oh, there's a lot of red flags from him early on. But so we take this money, we fight him, and I start getting more notices, cease and desists. And the best one, we're gonna get it framed some days, is really funny. Was it says Evan Kaminsky is the creator of the Abruptors. He is the creative mind behind everything that happened. He wrote all of the music. I'm like, that was amazing. I didn't know he was so talented. He just apparently did everything.
He ghost wrote through Mike.
Yeah, it was amazing. So it's just, it was laughable, absolutely laughable. And all the while, Mike is trying to play like nice guy, like Mike Park. He's sending him an email. He's just like, hey man, he's like, I heard, there's some things going on. He's like, let me know if there's anything that I can do to try to just put an end to this. We don't need to do this. It's cool. Like, let's just talk about it. And Evan's response was, I'll talk to my lawyer and let you know. Well, that wasn't good with Mike. He was like, he texted me and he's like, all right, fuck this guy. He's like, we tried to be nice. He's like, fuck this piece of shit. Everybody thinks Mike is the nicest guy in the world, and he totally is, but don't piss him off, because he can also be very angry, as you guys, I'm sure you know.
Oh, we've seen the dark side of Mike.
Exactly. So it's like, yeah, Mike starts going down this like rabbit hole, and it's really funny because now he's just like, all right, what do you need? He's like, how much money do you need? We're going to fucking bury this guy. And I'm just like, oh, okay. I was like, well, let's take a step back. I'm like, I don't want to borrow money from you and then like owe you $10,000. I'm like, let's see if we can like end this without, borrowing money. But he was totally on our side, and we really appreciate it because he was ready to just like throw money at us. And he told me some funny stories about like when people piss him off, that he's gone after them, even if he's lost, just so that, because when people do dumb things, it's not right.
Yeah. There's the principle element.
And that's what it was for Mike. And every like thing Mike saw after that was just like digging this deeper hole. And then what really got him was that when our Spotify was taken down, Mike gets a notice from Spotify that says, yo, you put up something that was from a trademark band. And if you do that again, we're going to remove your whole entire Asian Man catalog from Spotify. And that was the nail in the coffin for that guy. Mike lost his mind. He's like, oh, you're going to fucking threaten me now? He's like, okay. So, and I mean, Mike could have easily dropped us and be like, you guys are way more trouble than you're worth. You got a lot of fucking problems, But instead, he stuck by us. And basically, long story short, we decided to send him finally a message that he was sending us. Nothing but threats. So we were like, okay, here's a counter deal. Instead of paying you money, because he wanted money at this point now. He's trying to extort us. He wants money for us to drop this trademark. And we're like, you dumb idiot. You paid for a trademark you shouldn't have paid for. And we paid a government fee we shouldn't have paid for. We could have taken that $3,000 and recorded a new album. So we were like, how about this? Mike Park, myself, Tony, 2 other members of the band, don't sue your dumb ass, and you fucking drop it willingly. And you never touch our fucking name again. And somehow he got really scared. And he just completely dropped it.
I imagine like it sounds like he overplayed his hand too. Like if he had just said like, I got the trademark, it's a little bit of a more of a gray area, but making the claim that he wrote all the music and he started the band and all these things that were like provably false.
Yes.
That kind of just proves that he's lying. But if he had stayed in a more of a like of a more, didn't overplay it and just was like, oh, I made the trademark. It's mine. Like that could be an area where he could have really.
And that's what the lawyer was afraid of. She's like, he had that right with the trademark. And so we would have fought that, and it could have cost us thousands and tens of thousands of dollars.
The thing about a trademark, though, is you have to prove first use. And so whether Evan claimed that he wrote these things and he didn't, or he was the person that started the band and he didn't, he still would have had to prove that, because the way the trademark works is like whoever used it first in commerce is the one who kind of like owns it. So it was a losing battle for him really either way. It was just a matter of like,
how much were we going to put into it? The good thing about me is like, especially in the early days, I documented everything. So my computer is full of like all our first shows, first videos. He's not in half of them. Like he's just not there because he just wouldn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of documentation. I think I even had some text messages between me and the other guy I did this with about talking about quitting the B-Side Bastards and starting this band. And Evan at that point was not part of the conversation as I was trying to leave him behind.
My favorite part, though, is the documentation that Evan submitted when he said that he owned the trademark.
Oh, it's awesome.
Is literally it's
a picture of me.
It's it's a picture of Mike. It's like
yeah, that's your government working for you, right? That's the proof. That's all the proof they needed. It's pretty funny though. And he also got denied like 3 or 4 times, which is also funny. So I don't know what the hell happened there. But one of the cool things is that like he was like, okay, I want a non-disclosure agreement. And we were just like, no, we paid $3,000 to fight this. So we're going to talk about it and let people know that you're a piece of shit.
That's what your $3,000 bought you.
It did. Yeah. And he actually was like, all right, fine, you can talk about it. I'm like, cool. Let people know that you're a scumbag and not to work with you. So, I mean, if that's all I got out of it, I'm happy.
Yeah.
It was a horrible thing while you're going through it. You know, and I listened to the Mephistopheles episode that you guys did, and I was actually so surprised to learn that they went through something similar on a much grander scale.
Yeah.
That pretty much destroyed their band. And we love them. We've been working with them for a very long time. Awesome, awesome people. And I felt so bad that that happened to them. But, you know, on a smaller scale, we do understand what that's like. And we were very lucky to get our name back. And honestly, I feel like after we came back with newer people, and I mean, it's been better than ever for us. Like people who want to be here, people who really love what we do, and the shows we've been getting, especially recently, have just been awesome. We did end up losing our bass player a little while ago for just some personal reasons, and we found an amazing bass player right away. So
nice.
We're real happy with like where we are. The people we have, you know, the new people. TJ was our first new person. She was on the valve trombone. I remember on the Mike Park episode, you guys were talking about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very unique instrument.
Yeah, not a lot of valve trombonists in the ska world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, there is not. But that was just like, I'm not a huge trumpet guy, especially like at that time, Tony was going to play saxophone maybe 2 or 3 songs out of a set. So like we needed something that could be like a lone instrument, and she was a trumpet player. And I'm like, that's really high. We came from having a baritone and a tenor saxophone to like a trumpet. It was like, yeesh, that just didn't work with our music. So she suggested I have an opportunity to buy a valve trombone. She's like, what do you think? And it ended up working out.
So Noticeably Cheerless, you said you recorded it the summer of 2021?
Yep.
So by the time you recorded it, all of this band stuff had been sorted out and you had a new lineup ready to go?
Yes. By that point, it was all done.
Okay.
And actually, some of the songs that we wrote were actually about the situation, which is Best Wishes, Warmest Regards. Was literally, I wrote that kind of funny. I was sitting in a playground with my son. He's climbing on the jungle gym. It's sunny. You know, all the kids are laughing. You know, there's probably birds chirping somewhere. I don't fucking remember. But, you know, it was a very classic, almost Disney-esque day. And here I am in this like bench writing this song. I'm like this fucking piece of shit. You know, I'm writing every evil thing I can think about. It was just supposed to be like almost like a therapeutic thing as a joke. And I sent it to Toni, and she's like, that's a great song. She's like, you got to get rid of this one line. I think it was, you got to rot in hell or something, you know? So Toni was like, yeah, let's change that line.
I was like, that's a little strong. I was like, we're going to tone it down just a little bit.
Yeah. But it ended up being like such an awesome song for us. But yeah, we had the new lineup by the time we recorded. And the horns, though, I should point that out, were just the two. It was Toni and TJ. They're so talented. Like TJ is doing trumpet. She's doing valve trombone. Toni plays alto, bari, tenor. Like, so we got this massive horn section on the album. It's just the two of them.
Very nice. Yeah. You never underestimate the value of a 2-piece horn section in a ska band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now we're back to 3 somehow. So
just can't shake those horns, Mike.
Oh my God. Well, we did that. So we did that MU330 cover. And we were having like some discussions with Mike about, at the time, our current bass player, like Mike was trying to get him to leave, and he wanted me to get another horn player as well. And he's like, I'm going to start messaging people. I was like, no. I was like, don't do that, please. Don't do that. And so he did it anyway. And he put out like, do I know any horn players in Buffalo? And a couple people responded. Some people we had known, and we were like, no, not them. And then this guy just like randomly messages us, and he says, hey, I saw Mike Park's post about your horn player needs. And it was like this massive novel of like, can I please play with you? And it was kind of like a Greg situation where it was like a lot at one time. And you're just like, oh, hold this person off. But ended up being absolutely wonderful. He's a super nice guy. He lives about an hour and a half away from us. So he's got a bit of a commute. But I don't know. Maybe it's turning my hatred for the people who play horns into something a little bit nicer.
I was going to say you're going to eat your words because we have a really good, I think we have a really good group in general right now. But
it's amazing.
I mean, TJ and Kyle on horns, they're both really good at what they do, and they both practice all the time.
They send us videos of them just practicing together. It's incredible.
Don't go anywhere. If you want to hear the rest of this conversation, head over to our Patreon. Thank you for listening to In Defense of Ska. Please rate and review this podcast and tell a friend. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at In Defense of Ska. Pick up Aaron's book, In Defense of Ska, at your local bookstore or online. This podcast is edited by Chris Reeves of Ska Punk International. This is your co-host, Adam Davis of Omnigon, leaving you by saying ska now more than ever. It's been 14 months waiting for this record to come out, right?
Yeah.
Damn. I'm glad the record's finally here and the people finally get to hear this episode. What do we talk about afterwards with the Abruptors, Aaron?
Oh, we talked about Star Wars.
In a galaxy far, far away. Do you like Star Wars, Aaron?
I mean, who doesn't like Star Wars? I'm not a Star Wars.
Apparently you. I love Star Wars.
I like Star Wars. I'm not a Star Wars nut.
Okay.
Like, I'm not all things Star Wars, but I like me some Star Wars, of course.
Sure.
The Abruptors, though, they are ska. Ska. Yes, they like
Ska
ska
Wars fanatics.
They like Ska Wars. They're Ska Wars fanatics. So yeah, we get into the whole Star Wars thing.
So listen,
Star Wars.
If you like ska and you also like Star Wars, head over to our Patreon, okay? And for $5 or maybe a little bit more, you can hear the rest of this episode, and you will get early access to all our episodes.
Hear it. Yeah, you'll hear this episode before anybody.
So head over to the Patreon.
The first person.
Get in there. Get yourself some nice swag. And we'll talk to you soon.